All right. So in order to solve this type of inequality, I think the best strategy going forward, just in general, is to split it up into two separate inequalities. So we're going to be looking at 8x minus 3 is less than 2x plus 1, and then separately 2x plus 1 is less than or equal to 17x minus 8. So 8x minus 3 is less than or equal to 2x plus 1. And one thing to kind of keep your ideas organized is to move the x's over so that they end up in the center. So in this inequality, we're going to be moving the x's over to the right and the constants over to the left. So we could subtract 8x from both sides. And then we could subtract 1 from both sides. Okay, and this will give us negative 4 is less than or equal to negative 6x. Now we want to isolate for x. So divide both sides by negative 6. And keep in mind, whenever you divide or multiply by a negative with inequalities, we have to flip the signs. And we get 2/3 and x. So we know, logically, there has to be a section of this inequality that says x is less than or equal to 2/3. That'll come into play later. Okay, so let's look at the other side of the inequality. 2x plus 1 less than or equal to 17x minus 8. Okay, same deal, but a little different. Our objective our objective here is to get x's to the center in some way. So we want to get x's over to the left side this time, and our constants over to the right side. So in order to accomplish that, subtract both sides by 17x. And then we could subtract 1 from both sides as well. And what we end up with is negative 15x is less than or equal to negative 9. Now, same as before, we're going to isolate for x. Divide both sides by negative 15. And just like before, since we're affecting it with a negative, logically, we do have to flip the signs. And we get x. And I'll reduce this fraction down. That works out to 3/5. 3/5. Okay, so it has to fall within some kind of range where x meets this criteria and x meets this criteria. So it has to be less than 2/3. It has to be greater than 3/5. And we'll kind of analyze both, like in terms of numbers. I like to think of things sometimes as decimals to do this, because it's easier to almost visualize a decimal than it is a fraction. And 2/3 is 0.66, and 3/5 is just 0.6. So we know that x has to be greater than 0.6 and less than 0.66. So we'll throw x in the center here. And we know it has to be less than, and it makes sense because it's the larger number, 2/3. But it also has to be some value greater than 3/5. And that's it. Solving a two-part inequality by breaking it up into two separate statements and putting it back in.